Old. What do you like to have the most for dinner? I love hot spinach pies. Their smell just drives me crazy. But unfortunately, I can't bake them myself because I don't have an oven or a stove, or in fact, even a kitchen. Why? Because I live at school. If a few years ago someone had told me that this would be happening to me, I would have never believed them. This is my school. See that dressing room at the end of the corridor? Behind it is a small nook, and behind that, there's a staircase that leads up to a room in the attic. Old furniture, buckets, and mops are stored in there, but it's also where I live. I sleep right there, on that old mattress, and in the morning I go down to the toilets, wash myself, and make out to everyone that I was the first person to come into school. All of my friends wonder how I can manage to get in so early. None of them notice that I don't ever leave. They'd be shocked if they knew. Do you want to know why I'm not home like other teens? Sit back. I'll tell you everything. Every morning, I see my friends coming into school from home. They're so happy, well rested, and in freshly ironed clothes. Before class, they all talk about their families, what they ate for dinner, what they had for breakfast, which movie they saw at the cinema, and what guests they had over on the weekend. Sometimes I feel sad listening to their stories because I don't have anything that they do. And all because of a terrible tragedy that happened to my family. My usual breakfast is scrambled eggs from the school cafeteria. I do laundry in the school shower. My head's in the same shower. I don't even have half of what my classmates have and have to keep my meager possessions in a school locker. In the afternoons, I go about my classes and hang out with my friends, but in the evenings, I'm completely alone. My only source of entertainment is the internet. I watch YouTube videos on my old smartphone, and sometimes I can't catch the school Wi-Fi in my attic room. Those times, I have to sit out on a cold staircase where there are no problems with getting Wi-Fi. On the weekends, I don't go outside because I'm afraid I'll run into my relatives in the city. You probably think that I look like a bum, right? Not at all. I've learned to take care of myself, even in these bleak conditions, and no one has realized that I've been living at school for the past 4 months. I'm sad that I don't have a life like my classmates do, and sometimes I've wanted to tell my friends the truth, but I'm too ashamed to admit it. I'd have to admit as well that I ran away from home, but would they want to talk to me if they knew why I did it? Nobody knew my secret. That is, not until one evening when I was leaving the showers with towels around my head. I was sure I was alone. And then I heard footsteps. My heart sank. It must be the principal. I was frozen on the spot, in shock that someone was there. The footsteps got closer, and I realized I had nowhere to run. I turned around and saw the school's night watchman, Mr. Jones. He was in shock as well and asked me why I was at the school at night. He began to tell me that I should go home immediately, and I burst into tears. I begged him not to tell anyone about our chance encounter, and I was terrified that he would reveal my secret. I'm too scared to return to my former life. Mr. Jones pitied me and promised to keep my secret. Every evening, he came to check on me and make sure everything was in order. He even brought me a new blanket and a bed. We became friends, and Mr. Jones is an amazing person. So maybe I should tell him why I'm here. One time, Mr. Jones brought me a basket full of pies. Warm, fragrant, homemade pies. I had dreamt about homemade food for so long that when I bit off my first bite, tears of joy rolled down my face. These were spinach pies. How long had it been since I had last eaten one? My heart felt like it had shattered into 1,000 fragments. To be happy, some need a trip to a luxury hotel in Europe. Some need a new car. But for me, I only needed these pies with spinach inside. Only if they had been from my beloved mum. Mr. Jones was worried by my tears and began to console me. It was then I decided to tell him my story. 7 months ago, my mum suddenly died. After that, my dad began to come home drunk. It got to the point where he was drinking every day. He had always been a drinker, but my mum had done everything possible so that I wouldn't see it. Not even 2 months had passed since my mum died, and Dad had already brought another woman into our home, Debbie. My dad told me that she was going to be my stepmom. She was ugly and cruel compared to my mum, and constantly reeked of beer. Debbie would shout at me for anything, no matter how slight. Crumbs left on the table, unwashed cups in the sink, or for even daring to have loose hair. I did not like this woman, and she would snarl at me to get out and leave home. Go take a little walk, she would bark at me, and I would leave. For hours, I would wander around the city, not wanting to go to my friends because I was ashamed to admit what my life was like. One evening, Debbie once again told me to take a walk. I begged my dad not to make me leave that night, but he just said that I should obey Debbie and not argue with her. So I left. It was freezing outside. Lightning cut through the sky, and there was a torrent of rain. I was so cold that my teeth were chattering. I walked past my school, and at that exact moment, there was a terrible clap of thunder. I got scared and ran straight towards the school. I wanted to hide under the covering porch, but I noticed that the door was ajar. I pushed it and went inside. Finally, I was warm. I wandered around the school all night. It was interesting to be here all alone. Thank God my school was just a regular high school, not for the rich, and so didn't have cameras. I went into some different rooms, some of which I had never been into before. This was how I found my room in the attic. Here, next to the mops, I already felt much better than with my father and stepmom. This thought both scared and reassured me, and I decided to stay at the school. I thought that my father would come looking for me, but he never did. He didn't call. He didn't ask my friends or my teachers about me. My heart still breaks in pain whenever I think about it. I really miss my mom, too. I often remember how we used to bake spinach pies together, but I can't tell any of my friends about this because I'm just so ashamed about how my dad is. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. Only Mr. Jones could reveal my secret, and I asked him not to tell anyone for the sake of our friendship. Mr. Jones reassured me that he could be trusted, but then something completely unexpected happened. One night, Mr. Jones brought me spinach pies again. Whilst I was eating them, he told me that he had 2 sons, one naturally born to him and his wife, and the other one adopted. He then, unexpectedly, asked if I wanted to be a part of his family. His wife would cook spinach pies for us every day, he said. It was so kind. Would I have a house and a family again? Would I no longer have to live in the school? Mr. Jones invited me to meet his family and spend a night at their house, but this meant I would need to go outside the school. I had been living in here for more than a month already. It was a difficult decision. So, do you know what I did? I found the courage to step out from my hiding place. Mr. Jones and I got into his car and we circled around the city for a long time. I was so happy and relaxed that I dozed off there in the back seat and only woke up when the car had stopped moving. Here it was, I thought, my new home, my new loving family. But what I saw shocked me. I was outside of my old house, and there, on the threshold, stood my dad and Debbie. Mr. Jones had betrayed.
I ate there about a week ago. Something on the menu gave me insane diarrhea.
Oh my gosh.
But I am the hottest I have ever been.
Crankmakers, new tonight at 10:30 on Comedy Central.
Not doing this stupid.
Me. He brought me back to that hated house after all he had said. How could he? After all, he was the only one who I had confided in. I had been sure those spinach pies were a sign somehow from my mom telling me that I could trust him. But it was just a baked pastry, and Mr. Jones is an ordinary liar. He had told my father everything, and now once again, I live with my dad and Debbie. True, He threatened them with social services if they ever treated me poorly again, and my dad promised to take care of me. But I don't believe either of them. What should I do? Should I escape and find a new secret hiding place, or try to reconcile and live among the drunken quarrels of Debbie and my dad? What would you do in my place? Tell me in the comments below. Oh, and remember to like and subscribe to the channel.